This is Signal and Noise, bringing clarity to data, tech, and AI.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is my first official recording for the Signal and Noise Executive Voices channel. And for those of you unfamiliar with Signal and Noise, we just launched as a media company that's really looking to cut through a lot of the noise in the data, tech, and media industry, not to mention AI, and really focus on the operators, founders, product leaders in the industry that are building some very transformative and innovative stuff, but it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it. That being said, a big topic in the industry that I've been talking about a lot, I founded a company called High Signals that focuses on launch readiness transformation. Think of it as a subset of, or a subcategory of go-to-market around how you actually bring products, solutions to market as effectively as possible, locking in your critical decisions before you actually begin the commercial motions. And oftentimes that's where things break down. You get a lot of strategic drift along the way, and it affects every step of the customer lifecycle through customer success and product or solution delivery, resulting in oftentimes churn or low customer acquisition rates, et cetera. That is obviously a hot topic. A lot of B2B SaaS companies and AI companies are looking to either transform or enter the market that's super competitive today and don't really know how to differentiate or stand out from the crowd, and how to deliver a consistent experience that lives up to the hype, the promise of the product. So I thought I would cover in my first video a topic that's covered in 2 podcast episodes with the CEO of StealthX, Drew Burdick, that Rio and I had on our own Signal and Noise podcast, and we were also guests on his podcast. And it really got me thinking. There's a couple of key takeaways that I want to share with you in terms of tips and tricks that I've learned over my 25 years in go-to-market and related product strategy and commercialization roles in the tech, data, and AI space. And I thought it would be important to kind of share some of these insights because we learned a lot both doing the podcast together, and I thought this could be a good topic for my first video. And this is a 2-part series, so stay tuned for part number 2, where I'll give specific examples. But in part number 1, I want to talk about the 7 key things you've got to keep in mind when bringing a product to market, a solution to market, some sort of big commercial revenue event that may be critical to your ARR goals for the quarter, for the year, et cetera. And you might have a series of these, but how do you actually do this effectively across a lot of different siloed teams, a lot of different expectations and KPIs and incentives? And I think it's critical, one, to say, one, define what GTM is and what customer experience is. I mean, GTM is not about messaging. It's not about product marketing. It's really about building an operating system that turns value into adoption. And customer experience is really how the customer experiences that promise from a product or solution perspective as it's being introduced and implemented on their side, and whether or not it lives up to what the promise and positioning and sales motions and even customer success motions look like during that process. Because oftentimes there's breakage, there's strategic drift internally at the company that are selling the product or service, and that impacts the customer from a customer experience perspective. But to get to the top 7 takeaways, I think, for really turning go-to-market and launch readiness into an operating system that's repeatable and will drive better results for your organization in the long haul, we really need to update the way that we do this in the market. So the 7 key tips that I've got today, which I think will help companies adapt to the really radical changes around GTM compression, decisioning cycle compression, all with the help of very powerful AI and compute systems that are really enabling teams and individuals to rapidly bring rock solid decisions and strategic initiatives to market that would otherwise take teams in the past months, if not years, to master. So that being said, you got to get these things right, lest a competitor that is really tech forward and ahead of the curve is going to beat you to the punch, and you're going to lose market share and lose out in the market. So, number one, define the promise in one sentence. Think of the classic elevator pitch, right? And then force every team from your product org to your marketing org to your SDRs, sellers, customer success, onboarding, account management teams to prove it in their workflows, right? How do you actually thematically bring the value that you're claiming you deliver, the promise you're delivering to market through that entire customer lifecycle without any breakage, so it's consistent across the board. Number two, close the loop. Instrument onboarding and customer success to show where that promise breaks, right? And what I mean by that is that if they understand where the promise you're making to market might slip, right, they can be proactive in correcting for that and how they communicate with customers and providing the feedback loop to ensure that the stuff that we're putting out in the market, whether it's a seller or a marketing program or otherwise, is consistent with what the client is actually seeing. Because again, that breakage is suicide, commercial suicide, right? Leading to retention problems, et cetera. Number three, build one operating cadence across product, sales, marketing, customer success with shared metrics and weekly review. Sounds easy. A lot of organizations have monthly operating reviews, quarterly business reviews, but oftentimes still operate under different metrics and KPIs and incentive structures versus one aligned measurement system that really is customer first. It measures the customer lifecycle from first interaction all the way through onboarding and client growth, right? And ensuring that that process is tracked, KPIs are aligned, and incentives are all aligned across functions will ensure that you have a better customer experience at the end of the day. Number four, own the system of record for product, market, and customer truth, right? And this isn't your CRM necessarily. With a lot of advanced AI capabilities, you're really able to build or rent if you're working with a vendor, kind of an always on, always learning market, brand and product system, right? Where you're pulling in intel from your competitive sets, from the market realities in real time, all of your product information, your customer interactivity and how they're working with the product and churn rates, et cetera. And you're using that to continuously learn and improve and optimize. It sounds easier. It sounds pretty difficult to do and can be very challenging across siloed organizations. But the sooner you can get all that intel into one place, that again, with the power of AI, it's compounding our compute power. It's enabling us to make decisions on data that people and teams oftentimes really don't see, nor can wrap their heads around, because oftentimes it's too big, it's too complex, and it lives in too many different systems. The sooner you can get that into one operating model that is continuously learning, the better you'll be able to adjust to changing market realities, changing competitive realities, changing value proposition and use case realities on the client side. Number five, treat enablement as a product. Narrative, proof like case studies, objection management, first value moment, right? In terms of when you first deliver value to a customer, all that stuff must be codified and packaged. Going back to number four, the notion of having a system of record, leveraging AI. There's plenty of capabilities out there. High Signals, is currently bringing one to market to enable you to keep this stuff always on, always optimizing. Think about your persona grids or slides, your competitive analysis and SWOT analysis, right? Battle cards, use cases and case studies. This stuff should not be built once and put on a shelf. It should continuously and always optimize and improve, based on real-time feeds from the market and from the field, because that's how you're going to stay ahead of a lot of the drift that tends to happen over time across teams, where different teams are saying different things in different ways. But you need to have a central system of record to make sure that's possible. Number 6, audit friction at handoffs, at the handoff stages between a marketing inbound to an SDR outbound to an account executive to onboarding, account management, etc. Right? There are often friction points at each step in that commercialization process. Teams operating again under different incentives, different metrics, different KPIs, different expectations, different management. And oftentimes that handoff breaks down, and guess who sees that the most? Your end customers. They're going to see inconsistency. And in my next episode, I'll break down which companies, which types of companies and categories do this the best and which have shown to do it poorly over time. And then number 7, final, last but not least, and I'll leave you for video number 2, is keep positioning stable and always on. Evolve proof points quarterly or even more rapidly than that. And don't rewrite the story every launch, right? The story can be adjusted and updated with those inputs that I mentioned, which should tie back to a centralized system of record. But you need to not be pivoting in the minds of your customers on a continuous basis. It's more about micro adjustments based on market reality, competitor reality, product reality, and use case reality. And if you can consistently manage that process while maintaining sort of a stable positioning play in market, you're going to be considered a trustworthy company to work with for years to come. So stay tuned for my next Executive Voices episode from Signal and Noise on tips, not just tips and tricks, but the brands and the companies that are doing this the very best. Talk to you soon.